What's up, people? It's your boy, Porter Rock 77, back with a quick live stream. Thank you for joining. For those of you that joined, if you didn't join live, and you're watching this as a recorded video, I appreciate that.
What's up?
Okay, let me pause that real quick. Anyway, what I want to do is go over the 2016 market report. And it's going to be a boring topic for some. It'll probably be a boring topic for many of you. So I understand if you guys are not interested and you don't watch the video or whatever. And I get that because you want something more relatable instead of sales. But for those of you that are interested, it's probably because, you hear the tweets, the comments, the videos of this company ain't doing this company ain't doing that. And when you hear those things, you start to ask yourself, is the brand doing good? What's going on? Is the brand sustainable? Are the games selling? Is the future of this console in jeopardy? Those are things people think about when topics like this come up. And what's bad is this is what's bad. A lot of gamers don't read these reports. That's for those who are interested, they usually want to hear it from somebody else because they don't. People don't want to do it themselves, which is understandable. It's a pretty boring topic, and that's not something you want to read. So you rely on the YouTubers, the personalities and the people with channels and stuff that provide content and provide that information to everybody. So followers, subscribers, we all tend to gravitate to the people who talks about it. So we could just sit down and listen because most people don't want to read the details. They just want the big picture. Just give me the opinions, give me the information, and then you guys will learn from that. The problem with the situation is you have the Peter Pans, and I keep mentioning they live in Never Ever Land. And instead of being factual, instead of telling you guys the truth about what's going on, they're going to lie and twist information because the information provides a result. It provides, an end state. And that end state doesn't fit their narrative of what they want to be said. Can you follow along? If they provide you factual information, you're going to hear something they don't want you to know or don't want to tell you because it goes against what they're concerned with, and what they're concerned with is their product that they prefer looking better than the product they don't prefer. And that's where the lies comes in. That's where the Peter Panning comes in. And obviously we all know we're talking about the Xbox fanboys. All right. So I want to make sure we understand a couple of things, especially for the actual Xbox subscribers that I have here, the Xbox fans, not fanboys, not the Peter Pans, but just fans, you guys who prefer Xbox. The first step I want to say is this is not a video saying Xbox sucks. All right. And the information you're going to get is not to tell you you made the wrong choice. I want this to be very clear. All right. This video is not to tell you you made the wrong choice. It's not to say that the Xbox brand sucks. It's none of that. Do you understand? All I'm doing is providing factual information on numbers. That's it. Numbers can't tell you if something sucks or not or whatever. All right. Cannot dictate your personal choice. So nothing here is going to tell you that you should feel bad or you should feel some type of way over your product. That's not what this video is about. So let's get that straight away, okay? What this information is about, is what you call it. What this information is about is just spreading facts. So that way you guys know. If you're concerned about numbers, if you're concerned about what's going on, who's doing what, how, digital, physical, if you're concerned about that, so that way as your hobby, you're interested in the future of who's doing what, this video is for you. If you're not interested in numbers and you don't care about sales, you don't care about market penetration, you only about what games are coming and you don't care because you just enjoy the games, let everything else, deal with itself, then this video is not for you because that's not what this video is about today. And I want to be upfront because I don't want to bore you on a topic that you don't like, So I want to be upfront. I don't want you thinking that I'm going to end up talking about games and stuff like that. That's not what this video is. So I'm being upfront. All right. But if you are interested, if you see tweets and stuff like that, then yes, watch this video. If you see tweets saying one company is growing over the other and you're wondering, damn, I thought this company was doing better than that, then yes, you want to watch this video. You understand what I'm saying? Okay. Now, again, I want to be clear. This is not an Xbox bashing video. This is a Peter Pan bash video. I will say that. I will be upfront. Yes, I'm going after the Peter Pans because I'm tired of them lying, you know, and it's not just because of PlayStation 4 or whatever. It's getting ridiculous because you guys ain't getting the right information. You know what I'm saying? You guys ain't getting the truth. So these dudes are purposely lying to you, right? And that's, imagine if a teacher in school taught you that the world was flat because of his or her personal bias or something over whatever, and they kept teaching you the world is flat, and that's what you learn, and then you leave your education system out into the real world thinking the world was flat. You're gonna look like an idiot. That's the reason why I'm tired of the Peter Panning. It's about you guys. It's about you Xbox gamers. It's about you Nintendo gamers. It's about you PlayStation gamers and PC gamers getting real information. You understand what I'm saying? Because I'm gonna tell you the real information. I'm gonna keep it real, good or not. You know what I'm saying? And to add credibility to my statement, check out my video on PlayStation 4 games going to PC. A lot of people thought I was going to damage control. I didn't damage control. I said up front, PlayStation 4 games that go to PC because of PS Now are now multi-plats. It is what it is. I keep it real to you guys. This channel, don't confuse my channel here with the multiplayer podcast on Zair's channel. This channel is real information. You know what I'm saying? If PlayStation's messing up, you're gonna hear it here. If Xbox is messing up, you're gonna hear it here. If PlayStation's doing good, you're gonna hear it here. If Xbox is doing good, you're gonna hear it. You're gonna hear real information because some of you aren't interested in knowing more about the industry. You guys are truly interested in knowing more about your hobby. So you need to know the right information. You know what I'm saying? You can't know the fake shit. That doesn't help you guys, right? So for the people who joined the rooms, Kenny, Kingsman, Banish, Atriox, True Gamer, Mark Woolen, thank you so much for joining. I hope this video is helpful. You know, I hope this video gives you the information that you want. Again, this video is not going to be about gaming or like, you know, on the opinions of upcoming games. This is straight up numbers on how the industry did in 2016. You know, if you're interested in that, this video is for you. If you're not, and you're not interested in market shares and stuff like that, then I want to be upfront. Okay. So right now, what I'm going to do, I'm going to share my screen because, again, I want you to see the source. I also posted the link in the description box. So the link is in the description box. All right. Okay. Now, I just want to ask a question to the audience. Do you see the YouTube screen? You see the YouTube, right? Is my screen sharing properly? Because I'm going to click, because once I click on the tab, I won't be able to see the comment box. Are you guys seeing it? You seeing my screen? Right now you should be seeing the PR77 YouTube front thing. My screen being shared? Yay, nay, no. Somebody please just type yes, type no. I want to make sure my screen is being shared properly. Okay, cool. Now, all right. And the reason why I'm asking is because once I click on this tab, I won't be able to see the comment box. So I apologize if I don't reply to your questions. All right. So please hold all questions until I click back, until I stop sharing the screen. Then I'll be able to see the comment box. All right. So here we go. So you should all be seeing this now. I posted the link in the description box. This is from IHS Market. And this is the 2016 market report. All right. Now, I'm not going to read everything verbatim because that's boring. I'm just going to give you just a synopsis of each paragraph. All right. Overall, you see the big headline: Sony dominates 2016 console market with 50% share of world market value. Okay. So we got that. All right. Okay. All right. Now, here's some information. So we'll start with this area right here. And let me see if I can make it bigger for some use. All right. Okay. There we go. Made it a little bigger. If not, you could, click on the link and you can follow along with me. But we'll start out with the first paragraph where it says console market suffers 2016, but on course for rebound 2017. So apparently, less money was made in 2016 as compared to 2015 in terms of in dollar value. Okay, so in 2016, generated the console market generated $34.7 billion. Which is 2.5% down compared to 2015, which was $35.6 billion. So about $1 billion less. All right. Now, the attributing cost to this, you know, ultimately is the reduction of prices of consoles. And believe it or not, that is a normal trend. So don't freak out like, oh my God, the industry is shrinking. No, that's normal. Because think about it. If you sell, simply put, if you sell 1 million consoles, I'm just giving general numbers. If you sell 1 million consoles at $300 in 1 year, and then the following year you sell 1 million consoles for $250, which year had the more dollar value? Obviously, the year with the $300. You understand? So that doesn't mean things are bad. Because you got to remember, these companies will drop prices on their console, but they will still make profit. That's the reason why they drop the prices of the console. It's because they hit a price point where they can drop the price, but still make profit off of the console sales. And the reason why they drop the price is because they still want to generate that high volume of console sales. So the fact that it went down 2.5% doesn't mean the market is suffering, and those are little taglines and stuff. It's okay that, it made $1 billion less, but the thing is, the actual console sales continue to thrive. By dropping those prices, Microsoft and Sony were able to get the consoles into gamers' hands. If they were to keep the prices high, less consoles would have sold less. I mean, consoles would have sold less, which is bad overall. You need the actual user base growth. So don't be too concerned of that. Okay. Right? And it was both PlayStation 4 and Xbox One. All right. Okay, so we'll go to this little paragraph where it says games content spending mitigate the decline of hardware. So where hardware sales, because of the reduction in prices went down, the actual physical media and digital spending went higher. In fact, it went up 5.6%. Okay, over 2015 as compared to 2015. All right. So, and subscriptions, which is Xbox Live and PSN. All right, it grew up to 14% as compared to 2015. Now here it specifically talks about PlayStation, most likely because the way this article sounds, it sounds like Sony subscriptions was higher than Xbox subscriptions, but that's just a perception. But I think overall both subscriptions were higher, and it reached a record $2.8 billion between both Xbox and PlayStation. And this is what I'm talking about. This is one of the positives that's dropping the price in hardware results in. Sure, you made less money in hardware overall, but look where they made gains. They made gains in game sales, digital content sales, and subscription, And also, again, like to reiterate, just because they dropped the price in the hardware doesn't mean they didn't make money off the hardware. All right? So keep in mind. So Sony and Microsoft dropped the pricing of their hardware, which obviously dropped the overall net, and net income. But where they made their gains is physical media, digital sales, and subscription. Okay. Now, IHS Markit expects in 2017 to rebound, but of course, it's because of the Switch. So now you're going to have a third console added to the mix, which will increase the overall value. The overall number of console dollars. Does that make sense? But again, I don't like the way this article is talking about it because it's making it seem like things are bad. It's not bad. Like I said, 1 year you're selling 1 million consoles for $300 a piece. The next year you drop the price to $250. Obviously, you're making less money, but that doesn't mean you made less profit and stuff. And of course, the games and game sales contribute to that. All right. So now we're gonna go on to the next topic, which we talk about Sony's momentum set to continue. All right. And pretty much it says data reveals overall dominance from Sony is experiencing a console market with 50% market share and 19.7 billion spending on console hardware, games, content, and services. So between, all right. And this number, if I know correctly, does it include subscriptions? I don't think it breaks down if it includes subscription or not. No, it doesn't. So let's assume it includes subscription. So Sony made 19.7 billion spending. $19.7 billion was spent on console hardware, games, content, and services. All right, and they forecast that in 2017, Sony will break the $20 billion mark. All right, annually. Okay. All right. Additionally, this firm also markets Nintendo forces to rebound 2017 due to the launch of the Switch, which is obviously because the Wii U especially has been performing terribly. So the Switch will bring new life into the company. All right. And Microsoft is also expected to rebound from the 2016 decline um, with the Xbox with Project Scorpio. All right. So they're thinking Scorpio is going to bring new growth, and it's going to probably bring hardware growth because it'll probably be $500, stuff like that. Now, here's a diagram of the money for console market, and this includes everything, services, consoles, games, whatever. As you can see, Nintendo's pretty low. This blue line, if you want to break it down, the blue line is 2015, the gray line is 2016, the green line is gray is 2016, green is 2017, which is future forecast. As you can see, this right here is billions right here. So 5 billion, 10 billion and stuff like that, 15, 20 billion. So as you can see, Nintendo, last time they were over 5 billion in console, and this includes the DS and all that stuff, was in 2015. 2016, they were under, and they're forecasting to almost reach. As you can see with Microsoft, this is obviously the Xbox One and Xbox One S. In 2015, they were over 10 billion. Looks like kind of like 12 billion in hardware games and stuff like that. And they actually dropped in 2016. So let's say this is more like 13-ish. So this is probably 12-ish. And according to the screen, you probably can't tell. It's a little bit higher. Okay. Now, when you look at Sony, like, damn, their 2015 is bigger than what Microsoft and Nintendo's currently doing. All right. And their 2016, as you can see, how far in, and they're expected to go 20 billion. So this is everything right here. All right. Next one, PlayStation 4 dominates. All right. Market, the IHS, this marketing firm, confirms Sony's dominance of 35 billion console market continued 2016 with flagship console, responsible for almost double the sales value of hardware, content, and services compared to its closest competitor, Xbox One. All right. PlayStation 4 ended its install base. Now, this is interesting. The install base, PlayStation 4 ended 2016 with 53 million compared to Xbox One's 27.6 million. So that's pretty much double the fan base. And this is worldwide. All right. PlayStation 4 console responsible for 17.8 billion of sales value, or 51% share of the total console market, with Xbox One at 9.1 billion, or 26% share. And then it talks about the DS and all that and their part. Okay. So this is a graph right here, world console game market by platform in millions for 2016. PS4 almost at 18 billion. And you can see where Microsoft's at 9 billion. And then you see all the other devices. As you can see now, here's the interesting part. All right. Look at the 360. Look how far ahead it is of the PS3. And this is why I say, I know some people say PS3 won the generation. No, the truth is Xbox 360 won the generation. And of course, some people say, well, PS3 ended up selling more hardware, but look at the values right here. And if this talked about games, 360 sold more games. And that's ultimately the main point of the winner of the console generation. How much software have you sold? You see? So the 360 right there. Right? Look at the Wii U. Wii U is actually pretty impressive. Whatever. The Vita, this is probably 2000, and this is 2016 right here. So think about it. 360 almost pushed $2 billion. PlayStation's probably 1.7, which is about as much as the Wii U in 2016. The Vita, that's pretty impressive considering. So it's pretty impressive here. Right? Now, here's the good one. This is the one where everybody talks about. Digital business. Nintendo lags, but Switch will improve its standing. Now, Nintendo console just held 5% share of digital games content on consoles in 2016. Now, that's obvious because Wii U is not a big console for digital. And here's the big thing. If a company wants to push digital sales, they need to provide the space with the default system. So I'm not sure how much digital sales you're going to see on the Switch with such a small memory. And then you have to buy memory cards. I think maybe they'll support hard drives, I hope. But to me, that docking station should have included a hard drive. Should have included a 500 gig hard drive. They should have found a way if they were serious about digital content, But going forward, let's talk about Microsoft and Sony. They both deliver significant gains in digital games content spending across their consoles. All right. Now, Sony's digital game content is now worth 4.4 billion, and that's not even including, and I want to highlight it, platform subscription. That means the subscriptions for PSN Plus is not included in this $4.4 billion value. All right, and it's forecasted to break 5 billion in 2017. So this year they're expected for Sony to break the 5 billion value mark on digital content being sold. And again, it's not including the PSN Plus. Right, both companies are evolving the digital content monetizing strategies, and Microsoft recently announced Xbox Game Pass. Okay, so now here's the chart that breaks down digital, the value of the digital games. Now, again, this doesn't include Xbox Live Gold subscription money, the money they get from that, and it doesn't include the PlayStation Plus subscription. It's just straight up how much content is being bought in these digital stores. Nintendo obviously is going to be a low number. They really don't have a presence in the digital content, world with their systems, and hopefully the Switch can change that. So let's focus on Microsoft and Sony. Again, blue is 2015, gray 2016, green forecast for 2017. Look at Sony's 2015. It's pretty much on par to what Microsoft has done in 2016, right? Could you see it? Sony's 2016 blew way past Microsoft's. All right, they're over $4 billion. You saw an article, 4.4 billion. All right. So what this means, okay? What this means is when you hear the Peter Pans tell you Microsoft or Xbox gamers buy more digital content than PlayStation gamers, that is not accurate information. As you can see, Sony's making more money off of the digital stores off of Xbox. You understand what I'm saying? Or I mean, over as compared to Xbox and stuff. And keep in mind, this may or may not include the Xbox, the Windows Store. I'm not sure. I'm going to assume it's only console market and stuff like that. Now, some people may argue, and I will say legitimately, Sony has doubled the fan base, so therefore it should be double the numbers. So I could understand that. The only problem is this dollar value is about pricing of the games. So let's say if Sony has better pricing, cheaper games and stuff like that, it's kind of hard to double the numbers. You understand what I'm saying? So it's all about how much the stuff is sold for. It doesn't necessarily mean everything's supposed to be doubled. But I think the overall fact is, as that PlayStation has been a huge part in its digital content. So a lot of games sell digitally. So the market is not, the digital market is not primarily being driven by Microsoft. It's at least in terms of console, it's driven by PlayStation. Now Microsoft is growing. Now, is this number bad for Microsoft? I don't think so. I think 3 billion, because that's what it looks like. It's doing great. Especially with Microsoft primarily, with Xbox primarily being more prominent in lower regions. And what I mean by that is the platform is primarily dominant in North America, the UK, and a few other countries, while Sony has a bigger hold of the world and stuff. So this number is impressive. Microsoft, content is impressive. So it's nothing to sneeze at. They're doing great digitally and stuff. And this number might even shoot more if you combine it with the PC Windows Store, all right? But the main thing I want to make sure everybody understands is PlayStation gamers do buy games digitally. It's not something that's out of character. So let's just put it back, all right? So this is not saying PlayStation is better than Xbox. It's just that just PlayStation gamers also buy games digital and is growing. That's all really the statement I want to say, okay? And then that's pretty much it. That's the whole article there, all right? So let me back this out. Let me stop sharing. Okay, and then I will get back to the YouTube so I could see the comment box. All right. So guys, I'm looking at the comment box. Now, if you have questions and stuff like that, if there's anything you want me to clarify, if there's something that I talked that you might sorry about that. I bumped my mic. If there's something that you want me to go over, just let me know if there's any questions. But what overall I wanted to express. All right. One, if you hear people talking about the console market did bad compared to last year, they're exaggerating. Again, if you sell 1 million consoles in 2015 at $300, and then 2016 you sell 1 million consoles at $250, obviously 2015 you made more money. But that doesn't mean things are bad. Remember, these companies, they drop the price um, to keep pushing high sales. But when they drop the price, they're not losing money per console sale. They're still making money. They're still making profit. All right. I see the first question from Halo Stone Portog. Do you plan on getting an Xbox or PC? Well, ever since Sony made this announcement with PS Now, I just have a feeling they might fully support PC eventually. I'm just making assumptions here, but I think they might do it. And I think because when you think about it, it's not hard to port games over to PC. We've seen a lot of games between PC and PS4, so it's not like it's a hard process. So I'm sure first party developers have the capability to port games to PC. If, to be honest, they're probably making their games on PC anyway. You know what I'm saying? Because the tools are better. I don't see them using a controller to make games and stuff like that. So they're probably already doing it. With that says, that just makes me think about the future of how I want to play my games. And like I said before, if Sony supports PC with full digital downloads, actually putting in games to install on the platform, I might go PC simply because I'll still enjoy those awesome games Sony's first party does. In my opinion, Sony's the best first party developer now. I know some people want to give that tag to Nintendo, but that's just nostalgia. I'm talking here now. Compare Nintendo's first party with Sony's first party right now, and compare to the future projects and the new IPs. Nintendo, well, I can't remember the last time. I can't remember how many new IPs they made. They made a couple, but I mean, there's some new IPs that are huge now, that Sony invented and created, So to me, Sony here and now, Sony's the best first party. And if they provide that on PC, I'm going to enjoy it on PC only because I have more gaming options. And I'm not talking about power and stuff like that. I'm talking now I have access to Steam and I'll have access to Xbox. So I'll have access to just to gaming experience on the one platform without me losing out on the PlayStation experience. So I'm looking more towards PC at this point, but I want to see where the future Sony goes. If Sony only does streaming and they do not support PC with actual digital downloads to install, then I will get an Xbox because I will still support the console platform. I hope that answers your question. True Gamer, I have one question. I just want to know your prediction. How much will Nintendo charge for their subscription service? I think they already answered that question. I think it's $30, if I'm not mistaken. I think they already made that. I think they already said the subscription is going to be worth $30. I could be mistaken. Let me look it up real quick. Let's see. Switch. Could have sworn they already said subscription because I remember they were talking about it. Subscription price. Well, it says here Nintendo told Nikkei that service will cost between 2,000 yen and 3,000 yen. So that's about $20 to $30. So yeah, it's going to cost $20, and that's from Nintendo. So it's going to be $20 to $30 for the description. True Gamer. To Suarez, are these all estimated numbers? Because digital sales are bit being given out by the companies. Okay, so this is how they track. So while Microsoft don't give out digital sales for their first party games, the people who know digital sales of how they do on the console platform are the third-party developers. So picture this. Let's take Call of Duty. Sony doesn't say publicly how much Call of Duty sells sold digitally, right? And let's say Microsoft, they do the same thing. They don't publicly say how Call of Duty sold digitally. But do you know who knows? Activision, because it's their game, right? So every third-party publisher that has a game sold on Microsoft's, Xbox digital platform or PlayStation 4's PSN store, the third-party publisher knows how many of their games are sold digitally. They know that number, and they reveal it to these marketing firms. Now, Sony and Microsoft may not reveal these numbers to the marketing firm, all right? But all the third-party publishers, they all provide these numbers to the marketing firm. And then, so when you look at it, if every third party provides the numbers to the marketing firm, then the only thing really left over is just the first party exclusives, which is not a lot. So you figure 75-80% of the content on all these stores are third party, titles, from indies to big AAAs and everything in between. All right. So really what these companies do is they estimate what Sony and Microsoft does if Sony and Microsoft don't reveal numbers to them. Does that make sense? Okay. So that I hope that answers your question. All right. So it is a little bit estimation, but not as big as you think. These companies are able to get numbers from the publishers. They're able to get numbers from Ubisoft, EA, Capcom, Square Enix, and smaller publishers, just so they could build this picture. And the reason why these companies reveal these numbers, because ultimately these marketing firms, they put it all together, you know, and then you know the version that these companies pay for is a lot more detailed than what we're reading. This is just a glimpse. This is just an overview. The actual report of this report, the real deal, the 120-page report that you have to actually pay big bucks for, these third-party publishers, they actually get these and pay these, and they actually read the health of the industry. That's why they provide these numbers, because they want feedback returned to them to see how the outlook of the whole market is. Hailstone, what do you think of Sunset Overdrive, aka the best game on Xbox? I would love to give you my opinion on that, but I never played it, so I can't give you if a game is good or not. But what I can tell you is it looks great, and I love Insomniac games. And if I get an Xbox, well, I would have to get an Xbox to play that game because it's not on PC. So damn, I didn't even think about that. But yeah, I would say I am interested in playing that game. It looks amazing. I've seen a lot of gameplay and streams on that game, and it looks fun and it looks dope. So I have no doubt when you say it's the best game on Xbox, it probably is. But I can't give you an opinion on that. I never played it. Juan, Portorock, do you think Sony will launch a new portable, and what do you think about PSVR? All right, portable, I don't know. Um, Sony hasn't really talked about PSVR and how profitable it is, and you have to look at this. I'm more like 60% no, 40. I'll say 65% no, 35% yes, because you never know what Sony is going to do. Because I ultimately don't know how successful Vita was, but you have to ask yourself a couple of questions. Number one, how much money they made off of Vita, and number two, was it worth focusing developers in making Vita games when they could be making PlayStation 4 games? So you have to ask yourself, let's say they do make a new portable. Let's say the Vita 2. Well, somebody has to make games for those. And if you get a first party developer, or if you pay a second party developer to make a game of Vita, do you think you're wasting your time on making a Vita game, or should you just contract these developers to make PS4 games? Because you can't do both. You have to make a choice. Who do you want more games to be made for? That's where my 65% is because if Sony's going to contract somebody or assign one of their studios to make a game, I would think they want it on the PlayStation 4. That's just my opinion. But 35% is if the console was successful and they made money, they might make one. But I'm leaning towards no, especially I think now the focus is about PlayStation 4. Now, what I think about PSVR, I actually tried one before, and it's a great experience. Not something that I would pay $399, $499 for, but it was fun. It's crazy. And for some of you who can afford it and willing to take a chance on it, I'm sure some of you are having an amazing time with it. PSVR though is going to have the same problems every aftermarket peripheral has, and I'm going to explain this. It doesn't matter if it's the Sega CD, the Sega 32X, the Kinect, Move, or the PlayStation VR. They all have one major drawback or issue or hurdle or obstacle that they have to overcome. And that's who wants to make a game specifically for this device that only sold, I think that sold, I ain't gonna say only, but that sold 1 million units when they could make a game for 53 million PlayStation owners. And that's the problem that these aftermarket devices have. The fan base will never be big enough compared to the console the peripheral was made for. You're talking about 53 million gamers on PlayStation. No one really wants to make a title built for the PSVR. Not because it's bad or it's good, it's just because the fan base is not big enough. Now, what some might do is they'll make a game for PlayStation 4 and then just add VR functionality, kind of like Resident Evil did. But I don't know if that's good enough to make people want to buy the PSVR in the long run, to really get that mass numbers. But I would say what would help is they have to drop the price, because you're talking about a device that costs more than a console. What I mean by console is the Slim. The PSVR is $399, but the PS4 Slim is $250. or $299. That's pretty steep. I think bring about dropping the price will increase sales, and maybe you have a better outlook. The one thing I do say is that this device enhances gaming without you having to do crazy shit. It's not like Connect where you have to waggle and dance and do all these backflips. It's just straight up sit down. It's a head unit and you just enjoy gaming. So that is an advantage. But we'll see. And I wish luck because I wish the device luck because it's bringing a lot of people, a new experience or, changing the experience they have with these games. I heard people who play Resident Evil completely with the PSVR had a level of experience that no one else is able to play, and I think gamers deserve that. Marco, yeah, but look at all right, let's see. How many new IPs do you think will be announced at E3 for both systems? All right, hard question, because are you also talking about indies? Are you talking about AA games? Are you talking about exclusives, multiplats? I'll say this in general, we're going to see a lot of new IPs in combination with multiplats and exclusives. I could see Sony announcing maybe one or two new IPs. Like Sucker Punch will probably announce the new IP. There's rumors about them and some other studios. But Sony has a lot of projects under their belt. And I don't know how they're going to fit it under their schedules. I think Microsoft is on the hook out of anybody. And Nintendo. I'm going to put Nintendo in this. I think both of those companies are on the hook to develop new IPs more than anybody else. Because Sony already showed their hands. And they're showing, Days Gone. They showed that they're fully supporting Kojima with Death Stranding. And then obviously they got Spider-Man. And then, of course, they're going to throw in a game. Even though it's not a new IP, they're working on God of War. So Sony, is already ahead of the game. So no one's really questioning Sony about pushing out new IPs, especially stuff we're already playing, like Horizon Zero Dawn and stuff. And then we got Detroit. So there's a lot of new IPs. So I don't think Sony's on the hook. The two companies are on the hook is Nintendo and Microsoft. They really need to have a great E3 and to show that they're dedicated in creating new IPs. And I wish that for them. I hope that for both of them. I think Nintendo is probably going to show more new versions of their classic IPs, maybe a new Metroid game, hopefully, Super Punch-Out, Donkey Kong, something to that extent. I think they're going to focus on pushing out those games, and they should before they start introducing new IPs. I think they're trying to get the classics of what they're known for out there, and then they'll start pushing new IPs. So we'll see. But I hope the best for everybody at this E3. What's the next question? Anybody else? But this games are going to be out. Short-term future. Okay, the Kingsman. Brother, since games are going to be on most platforms in short-term future, how will that affect people who just like consoles? Will consoles soon be obsolete? Shaking my head. I dare sure hope not. No, consoles will never be obsolete. All right, you don't have to worry about that because I'm going to tell you why. And I'm going to tell you, there's an advantage console has that PC doesn't have. All right, and you're going to tell this to every PC gamer. Now, the answer isn't ease of use. I'm going to tell you because PC is pretty easy, especially the way they combine the ecosystem. The applications, they download all the drivers. It does everything for you now, right down to the hardware and the updates to the game. So PC does that. Steam does that. And I'm sure Sony, if they were to go fully PC, they'll provide that level of ease of use where the app will look for the drivers and look for, the updates and everything's updated for you. Right? Where console will always win is in the long term. And what I mean by that is try to find me a PC platform, right, that can produce, graphics to the level of the PS4 Slim or the vanilla, not on the PlayStation Pro, just the PlayStation Slim and vanilla for $250. PC can't do that. There is no PC out there for $250 that can run Horizon Zero Dawn and look that good. Now some people go, well, when PlayStation launched at $400, I'm not talking about launch. I'm talking the long term. These consoles drop prices quickly. You're not gonna get Horizon Zero Dawn graphics for $250 on PC. Not gonna happen. PC will always be in the $600-$700 range. And that's the advantage of console. And also console's graphics looks better over time. Horizon Zero Dawn to me blows Uncharted 4 out the water in its open world. That's improvement. That's the console improving itself over time. While on PC, if you want to see huge improvements, you have to buy the hardware. You know what I'm saying? The components on PC aren't well optimized. They don't optimize it. They only optimize it to a certain point. If you want, if you want to see a Horizon Zero Dawn over Uncharted improvement, you have to buy a better card for that. While on console, it's automatic. The developers, they're the ones on tap to do that. And again, you're getting Horizon Zero Dawn graphics for $250. And this holiday season, probably for $200. You can't do that on PC. So no, consoles will never go away, just simply because of the price and how much and the value between graphics and performance compared to price, right? Sony Sucker Punch IP should release later this year, 3 years in the works. Yeah, it might be. God of War this year, bro. In your opinion, I want to say yes. This is from Mark Wilden, God of War 4 this year, my opinion. I want to say yes so bad. I do. I want to play that so bad. But I think it's going to be a March 2018. Only because traditionally, all the other God of Wars, every single one of them came out in March. So they might stick to that rhythm. But from a business sense, Sony doesn't want to compete with Call of Duty or Destiny 2 or Red Dead Redemption or the Star Wars Battlefront. Remember, Sony paid marketing rights for these games. So they're paying for the marketing rights for Destiny 2. They're paying for the marketing rights for Red Dead Redemption. Obviously, they've had the rights for Call of Duty, and they got the marketing rights for Star Wars Battlefront. So they want you to buy these games. They don't want you to be like, well, I'm not going to buy Red Dead Redemption because I'm going to get God of War. They don't want that. They want you to get Red Dead Redemption and God of War. They want you to get both, So the only way they can do that is to make sure they position God of War to where you're not put in that position of deciding which game to get. So I don't see God of War coming out this year. I know the main thing people are going to ask or bring up is, but Scorpio's coming. If you haven't noticed, the last 2 years in MPD, Sony's been the number one selling console worldwide. And in the States, they've been the number one selling console for November, December, and that's without exclusives. So Sony's strategy is working. They're positioning the gamers where we can enjoy the games without being overwhelmed, And then when the new year kicks off, we have great games to play during a period where not a lot of multiplats come out. Does that make sense? So that's why I don't think God of War is coming out this year. I think Sony's going to kick off 2018 with bangers. The only game I think that might come out is Spider-Man is only because the movie comes out this year. So they might align the game with the movie at some point, So I wouldn't be surprised if Spider-Man's like an August game or something like that. I could see that happening. But as far as God of War, I think Sony wants to put that in 2018. So that way we still got that same feeling we're having now with an awesome banger in 2018, at the beginning of the year. Right? So then let's see any questions. When is Detroit going to drop? I don't know. But if it's going to drop, it's going to drop before September, and hopefully they announce that in June. Because again, they're not going to want to put that game in position with Destiny and, Red Dead Redemption and stuff. I love Quantic Dreams games as well. Do you think Sea of Thieves, State of Decay, and Crackdown could be heavy sleepers? I think State of Decay might be a heavy sleeper. Sea of Thieves might. I'm not sure about Crackdown looks good, but so far the only thing they've been talking about is just the physics. Is you can destroy walls and you can destroy buildings. How does that relate to gameplay? That's what I want to know, and they haven't been showing that. Sure, it's cool. You've seen the whole building collapse and crash on the ground, and that looks good, But that's just, the shock and awe you get initially. But after a while, that becomes routine. So how does it impact gameplay? That's the real question, and I haven't seen much. Sea of Thieves might be a sleeper hit because of its multiplayer and how, you have to work together, and a lot of people might like that. But I think State of Decay 2 might be. Because I've been hearing great things about it, and it was just an arcade game. Now that they're giving it a full budget production, it could be like living in the world of The Walking Dead, in a way that The Walking Dead games haven't been able to portray. You know what I'm saying? You could, and I think a lot of people will like that. So we'll see. So that's one of the games I'm interested in State of Decay 2. Looking forward to that. Do you think we'll see a Fable reboot for Microsoft? I know you're a PlayStation guy, but want to hear your opinion. I hope they do. I hope they do a reboot. You know, I'm a PlayStation guy, but I love Fable on the OG Xbox and the 360. It's a great franchise. I'm just shocked that Phil perceivably let it go. Now, if he were to say, "Hey, we closed the studio, we're canceling this, but the Fable franchise will live on. We will find ways to do it," I wish he would have said that. I wish he would have told people that, "Hey, despite the closure studio, the Fable franchise will be heading in a new direction or in a different direction compared to what they were doing with Fable Legends or whatever it was called." I wish he would have said that, so at least the fan base knows Fable's not gone. But that's a huge IP for them, and it's an RPG, and I think they need that, So I would hope they do a reboot or just come out with Fable 4. But either way, they need to keep it alive, and I hope they do keep it alive. In your opinion, what is the reason that Japanese game developers as a whole refuse to make games for an American console? All right, awesome question, C Trigger, and I will tell you that is a propaganda that the Peter Pans have put in people's heads, and they've done it so much that now people are starting to see that it's a cultural thing. Listen, brother, man, the Xbox 360 had lots of Japanese games, and it's an American console. In fact, for the first 3 years of Xbox 360, it had more Japanese games than the PlayStation 3. The OG Xbox, that's an American console, but it was often called the successor of the Dreamcast, or some people just outright called it the Dreamcast 2. And the Dreamcast is a Japanese console, so think about that. Gamers are calling an American console the sequel to a Japanese console. So it's not the console, it's the people. It's Phil Spencer. Now I know recently he went to Japan to talk to some Japanese developers, but he should have done that 2 years ago. From the moment he took over the Xbox division in 2014 as the head figure over Don Matrick, one of the first places he should have visited was Japan. So that way they could start getting ready to make games, and they will be releasing now because it's going to take like 2-3 years to produce. Peter Moore believed in that. Peter Moore, who just left EA, he came up with the strategy of how to be a PlayStation console. He goes, number one, you have to come out before them. You cannot come out at the same time. You have to come out before them so you can start developing the market. Number two, when he did this strategy with the 360, he knew that the console market were PlayStation 2 gamers. PlayStation 2 ended up selling 150 million units. So if 360 were to improve and succeed, you have to take the PlayStation 2 gamer. You have to take the PlayStation gamer and bring them on board. And he knew a lot of PlayStation gamers love Japanese games, so you have to bring them over. That's why he greenlighted, Lost Odyssey, Blue Dragon. He was able to get other Japanese games like Infinite Discovery, Eternal Sonata. What else? He got Tales of Vesperia and stuff. He just, Ninja Blade. He was in bed with, Itagaki and got, Ninja Gaiden 2 and stuff. He just kept getting Japanese games left and right because he knew that's what a lot of gamers on PlayStation platform preferred. Or not preferred, but they also enjoyed besides American games. So it's the leadership, it's the people. Xbox is not getting Japanese games because Phil Spencer didn't put the effort over the last 2 years to make sure they come on a console, for whatever reason. But again, the Xbox 360 didn't have problems getting Japanese games, and the OG Xbox. Hell, I was playing Phantasy Star Online on the Xbox, not on the PS2. Phantasy Star, a Japanese game by Sega, wasn't on the PlayStation 2. It was on the Xbox, and the Xbox leadership made that happen. So it's not the box, and it's not the fact that it's American. It's the people and the effort to get those games on the platform. And Phil didn't do that, at least. All right. He's trying to do it now, but but if he really wanted the games to be available, he had to do that 2 years ago. So that way the developers could start, getting in the works, to start releasing these games for 2017. Let's see. Okay, let's see. Can't wait. Okay. Borak, you should come to PC. Borak, you should come to PC. Well, if Sony goes to PC, I'm there. But I can't let go of the PlayStation experience. The games are just too awesome. The first part studios, I love it. It's just, Would you have a Fable 4 or Fable reboot? Fable 4. Fable 4. I don't think we need a reboot of Fable. Just whatever ideas that they wanted to implement into Fable reboot, just put him in Fable 4 and continue on with the story. Just give a new story, new stuff. I would have had a Fable 4. Nothing wrong with a Fable reboot, unless they want to take the franchise in a completely new direction, then okay, I could see the reboot. If they want to do that, kind of like what they're doing with God of War. I think they're trying to take the series in a different direction, so you kind of need a reboot in a way. But I'm not sure if God of War is a reboot or is a sequel. It's hard to tell. He's older now, so we'll just find out and see what's going on. Single player, okay. Last question was Scorpio supporting VR in the OG Xbox One. Not do you think they are still leaving gamers behind or not? Thanks for them. Okay, so VR being supported on Scorpio and not the OG Xbox One, I think is because the Xbox One can't. That's just the reality. The Xbox One doesn't have the hardware. When Sony started with PSVR, I don't think it was something that they thought of overnight. I think they thought about it in line with the PS4. So they made the PS4 to be able to handle PSVR, and Microsoft didn't, not with Xbox One. So I don't think I think it's a question of they just can't. And Scorpio by default, due to the hardware, it's going to naturally support VR no matter what. It just has the hardware, and that's really what it comes down to. It. Do you have the right hardware to support virtual reality? And Scorpio definitely does. Xbox One S and Xbox One don't. Sony made PlayStation 4 in mind to support PSVR, so I know it sounds like it sucks because they're leaving gamers behind, but I think it's just the nature of the hardware of Scorpio. It's just able to support it. And I think Microsoft wants to jump in because I think a lot of companies are seeing growth in VR, so I know it kind of sucks, but I think it's just simply due to the nature of the power of the hardware. Let's see. What's up, Infinite? What's up, everybody? Any other questions? Let's see, Puerto Rico. I can't agree with you. All right, here you go. Puerto Rico, I can't agree with you because all of the heads of Xbox said that the Japanese market refused to work with them, and all the games that did come to 360 cost money to just offer. Here's a question I'll ask you. The Xbox heads are telling you, nobody wants to work with them. Okay. But I remember Phil Spencer, 2014, when he took over Xbox, he said he wanted to win the console market space. He wants Xbox to be the number one console, and he's going to work to that goal. Now, fast forward to a couple of months, he's saying none of this is important. He just wants games to be enjoyed by everybody. So you really can't, and I know you disagree with me, Trigger, but which you think is more easier to digest? What people say or what you physically could be able to see? Now, me, I'm going by what I've seen. I've seen Japanese games on 360, and there was a whole shitload of them, and I played a lot of them. I also seen and played a lot of Japanese games on the OG Xbox. Both of those consoles are American consoles. And that's just my reality. That's just how I see it. So when I hear people saying Japanese don't support American consoles, I can name you a list of games I played on American consoles on 360 and the OG Xbox. So, am I supposed to ignore my experience? And I'm talking like, the OG Xbox came out in 2001. So you're talking 16 years of me living a world where American consoles had Japanese games. Or should I ignore 16 years of my gaming because of what Phil Spencer said? So who should I believe? Should I believe Phil Spencer or should I believe my own experience of what I played on the console and stuff like that? Now, of course, it costs millions, to put those Japanese games on the 360. But I think we both could agree 360 was the dominating console of last generation. So you got to put in, to put out. What you put in is what you're going to get out, in my opinion, So, yeah, I hear what the developers are saying, but I have 16 years experience playing Japanese games on American console. So I personally cannot see how now is the problem when this wasn't happening before, That's just my opinion on that. All right. MS are too focused on multiplayer games. Do you think MS needs to work harder on single player story driven games? Phil seems reluctant to do so after QB and Rico failed. Okay. Here's my thing with that. MS are too focused on multiplayer games because I think that's the fan base that's being created and grown on Xbox. Now I have friends that own the Xbox One, right? And we'll talk with QB. And I mentioned this before, and some of you may already heard it. But when they approach me, because they don't go on Twitter, they don't even know who Phil Spencer is. To them, they found out about games when they walk in GameStop, and they look on a poster, or if they ask me what new shit's coming up. So when they walked into the store and they saw Quantum Break and they recognized the actor, they asked me about it. Yo, what's up with this game? It's that dude from X-Men, the guy who plays Iceman or whatever. And I'm like, yeah, it's from the people who made Max Payne and stuff like that. And they were interested at first because they know about Max Payne and stuff, and they like those games. But when they asked me a certain question, which I already knew they're not gonna like the answer. But they asked me what type of multiplayer modes the game has. Does it offer co-op? How many people could co-op? What type of multiplayer modes and stuff like that? And I told them the game's not gonna have multiplayer. It's a single player experience and stuff like that. And that turned them off. And I told them, it's a good game. It's from the people who make Max Payne. Max Payne didn't have multiplayer. And they were like, yeah, but that's back then. I'm not, they were like, they're not like that now. They like their multiplayer games. They want to play with people. And, one of my friends was like, if I fucking, I ain't paying $60 a year or $50 a year to play single player games. For that, I wouldn't get Xbox Live then. I think there's a lot of gamers on the Xbox Live, on Xbox One that have that mindset. They want their games to be tied to the service. And if the game is not tied to the service, they're not going to get it. So it doesn't matter if the game's great or not. Does it have multiplayer? That's the key component. And I think Microsoft is realizing that. And so they're reluctant to release single player games unless they know it's something that's going to be big. And this brings up a good point because I had a conversation with a friend of mine. We were talking about how Phil Spencer didn't jump on Playground. Now, some of you who don't know, Playground were the people that developed Forza Horizon 3, the Forza Horizon franchise. So very good company. They don't fall under Microsoft. They're not Microsoft first-party studios. They're a separate studio, but they were tasked to, develop these games, and they've done a great job. Because of the success of the Forza Horizon franchise, they made enough money to grow their studios, and now they're working on an open-world game. When the news broke out that they're developing an open-world game, people assumed Microsoft was going to jump on it. But what ended up happening is they didn't. So Phil Spencer is not jumping on this game. So the game's going to be multi-plat. It's going to be on PS4, Xbox One, and PC and stuff like that. So people were thinking, what the hell Phil's doing? It's a good company. They produce quality games. They're on schedule. There's no reason for Phil to not jump on this title. In my opinion, I think he's not jumping on the title because it's not going to have multiplayer. I think Playground's next game is going to be a big open world single player experience. Whether it's more like an RPG like Horizon Zero Dawn, The Witcher, or more action adventure like Far Cry, Just Cause, or Grand Theft Auto, or or like Fallout. It's going to be a big open world RPG, and I don't think multiplayer is involved, and I think that's why Phil Spencer is not interested in it. Because I can't see any other reason why. So we'll just stay with that. Porterak, which you think is better, OG Xbox or PS2? For online, OG Xbox. For gaming, PS2. For just the library. So for the gaming library, PS2. For the online, OG Xbox. Because that's how I treated it. A lot of the online games I played on Xbox, OG Xbox, on Xbox Live, except for sports. I played my sports on PS2 only because of the controller. The OG Xbox didn't have 4 shoulder buttons. It was only 2 triggers and then 6 shoulder buttons. So a lot of games you couldn't, do moves like the way you could on the PS2. What do you think about rumors that God of War is coming out this year? I already answered that. I don't think it is this year. I'm sorry, I don't want to answer that question again. Why does Crap Gamer don't like you? It's only because Crap Gamer, how can I put it? He doesn't like me because I'll tell you why. Because, like I said, I keep it real. I keep truthful information. You understand what I'm saying? And my truthful information contradicts the bullshit he likes to spread, which makes him look stupid. You know what I'm saying? That's just it. And a lot of people, I noticed, or from what they told, keeps going at Crap. When Crap makes a comment, they'd be like, no, but Porterak, he proved that it's this and this, and he's tired of hearing that. He's just sick of it. And that's just really what it is. But I leave that alone. That's just on him. Right? Do you know about Star System? My only reason to play a PC game? No, I don't. I'm sorry. I heard of it. I just never looked into it. VR is going to be a fad and will not be the future until 20 years. Maybe, maybe not. I don't know. It's really comes down to the games. That's really what's going to help VR. Do you think Horizon Dawn 2 will have online component? I don't know. I don't think so. Does Fallout have online component or other scrolls? I know they made other scrolls online, which is a separate universe, but in my opinion, it shouldn't. Horizon Zero Dawn has lots of content on its own. Just focus on the game itself. Focus on the world. Focus on the universe. Focus on making it bigger and more engrossing, but just keep it alone. I think if they put online, they're putting their focus on something else, vice the game itself. So, just treat it like any other RPG. Just keep it to where it needs to be and just improve on the game. And I think people will enjoy it. Okay, my question was about if they are leaving gamers behind, not if it was possible on one platform or the other. Okay. Damn, that's all right, Suarez. Good question. That's a trap. You're trapping me. I could say yes, they're leaving gamers behind, but not intentionally. Does that make sense? So for people who don't buy the Scorpio and they see Scorpio users now have the ability to play VR games with headsets, yes, gamers will feel they've been left behind. So in that sense, you could say yes, they're leaving gamers behind. But I don't think they're doing it intentionally. It's just the nature of the hardware. The Xbox One and One S wasn't really meant for PlayStation VR. So yes, they're leaving gamers behind, but I don't want to bash Microsoft for it. It is what it is. So yeah, there's some gamers who are not going to buy the Scorpio. If Scorpio starts pushing VR games, that might piss off. I could see a lot of Xbox One S and vanilla Xbox feel slighted, and there's nothing on that. I can understand, I understand, but consider that the list of PlayStation exclusives for this year and 90% of games are Japanese developed but aren't on Xbox. Right. Okay, all right. So C-Trigger is asking, I can understand your point, but consider that list of PlayStation exclusives for this year and 90% of games are Japanese developed but aren't on Xbox. Why? It's because I'm telling you, because Phil Spencer, when he took over, he didn't get his appy ass on his G4 plane and get his punk ass to Japan to tell them their vision, what's going on, what they're doing. Tell them about Xbox One S. Tell them about supporting HDR. Tell them about the Scorpio. Get out there and talk to them. Because here's the thing. Sony is already in Japan. So it's a train ride or a car ride on a limousine to Capcom headquarters and all that. But make no mistake, Sony, everybody thinks, they're making these games on PlayStation and Sony's just sitting, on a villa off the coast of Milan sipping on Mai Tais. No. Sony is talking to all developers. That's how Japanese businessmen work. Japanese business is a little bit different than American business. They like to shake hands. They like to sit in a restaurant, drink some sake, and have a conversation. That's how business works for them. You need to have a face-to-face with them. They need to talk. They need to, if you're interested in what they do, you need to show them. You need to show respect and sit down with them and have a meal. Break a little bread. Have some wine. Have some sake. Say banzai, tell little stories. It doesn't have to be, serious business in a conference board, but just simply flying over there and say, hey, can we have a talk? Hey, we're interested in products. This is our product. We would like you to be part of it. And they'll be like, sure, let's have it over dinner and some wine or whatever. And you sit down, you enjoy, you conversate, and then it's done. Phil didn't do that 2 years ago when he took over. He ignored them. And now he's paying the price. That's why recently Phil went now. If Phil truly believed he couldn't get Japanese games on Xbox One, he would not have flown to Japan to talk to them. Think about it. If he can't get Xbox One games, or if he can't get Japanese developed games on Xbox, then why did he go over there? What's the point? It's because he didn't do that. He messed up and didn't do that. He should have done that in 2014. Go out there in Japan, go to a little restaurant, have some wine, have some sake, get drunk with these guys, and ultimately have a good relationship. Let them know what he's doing with Xbox One S. Let them know about Scorpio and his plans, so they could be in on it, and they'd be like, cool, Phil Spencer-san. We're going to help make games. And some of them might be like, we may have little issues with budget. Can you help us? Or we may not understand Xbox development. Can you help us? Phil Spencer's like, yep, we'll help you. We might help provide resources. Hell, some of those games we would like to be time exclusives. He could do that. He didn't. He's doing it now, but you won't see the fruits of Phil Spencer's label till 2019 now. So he's behind the power curve. Does that make sense? That's the reason why. All right. Peter Moore, he's done that even before the Xbox 360 even launched. He already been having conversations with Japanese developers and all that stuff. That's why games came out like within a year or two of 360. Hell, Blue Dragon came out in 2006, a year after the 360 launch. That's because he sat down and broke bread with them. He had conversations. And don't make no mistake, Sony has to do the same thing. If Sony don't sit down with these fellow Japanese developers, they won't get their games. Everybody has to sit down with Japanese developers. It's not just simply a phone call. They just traditionally work a different way. They're more social, right? Wow, didn't know PGR was coming back. Is it coming back? Project Gotham? Who will win Racer? I'm the worst person to ask about racers. I can't stand the genre. I apologize. I can't answer that question. I just hate the genre, so I really don't care. Forza 7 or GT Sport? If I had to choose, God of War. There you go. I hate racers. It just sucks. Let's see. Do you think Horizon will have flopped on Xbox? It doesn't have multiplayer. Good question. I would say certain games have a level of success. Like look at Fallout. Fallout does well on Xbox. Elder Scrolls will do well. Dragon Age, Mass Effect. So big level RPGs. Witcher did great. So I think Horizon Zero Dawn would have done great. Also, I think it would have done great. I think it would have done good. I think it would have been a good game. I think certain single player games will done okay. People don't want to pay $60 for PSN to just play single player games. I would say though, because of the huge fan base, so who's next said people don't want to pay $60 for PSN to just play single player games. I would say this. I would say there are gamers who are paying PSN, $60 and want to play multiplayer games. But at the same time, I think PlayStation attracts a lot of fans who love the single player aspect. Like I pay my $60 and $50. Hell, I got my subscription good for the next 3 years. So I paid my money for PSN, but I love my single player games. You understand what I'm saying? And I think on PlayStation, we have millions and millions of gamers that don't mind our single player games and they enjoy it. Let's see. Okay, yeah, but those same companies never approached Xbox, much like how Kojima went to Konami straight to Sony with no one in between. I disagree, C-Trigger, on that one also. It's not on the Japanese companies to approach Xbox. It's not their box. They're not responsible to make sure Xbox has games. It's not on them. Well, think about that. Who's responsible for the success of Xbox? Who's responsible for the success of PlayStation 4? It's the console manufacturer. Sony's responsible for PlayStation 4 and Microsoft's responsible for Xbox. So the onus is on them. Now, when you said Kojima went straight to Sony, actually, no, he didn't. There was actually lots of bids. He even got offered bids by Chinese developers. In fact, some of those Chinese developers, apparently, when he said in an interview, were offering more money to Sony. But there was one reason why he chose Sony, because believe it or not, it wasn't Kojima, going straight to Sony. Hey, I want to make a game with you. It didn't work that way. Everybody went to him, to include Sony. Again, this is Japanese business culture, all right? But Sony, and then Sony wasn't even the one offering the most money. There was people offering a lot more money. But Sony offered something the other developers or publishers, whoever, didn't offer him. And he said in his interview. And that's the freedom to do what they want. Sony said, hey, we'll give you the money that you need. Do what you want. That's what we're offering. Everybody else was saying, hey, we'll give you even more money than Sony could possibly offer, but we want you to do this. And he didn't like that. He had his vision of what he wanted to do. Sony was the only one that said, this is it. And Xbox wasn't even on the talking table. Microsoft never approached them. And this is the point I'm trying to say. Microsoft, don't excuse Microsoft for taking care of Xbox. You need to expect better for them. They need to approach developers. And again, Phil Spencer 2-3 weeks ago went to Japan. So it's not like I'm making this stuff up. He probably realized the error of his ways, and now he's trying to correct it. He should have done that trip 2 years ago, and Xbox wouldn't be going through the problems you have now. He needed to do that trip when he took over, but he didn't. He's doing it now, but now you're not going to see. Watch in 2 years, you're going to see Japanese games get developed on Xbox. Watch, you're going to see it now. Phil Spencer had to do it 2 years ago, and he didn't do it. Maybe he didn't think about it. Maybe he thought certain things were more important. It is what it is. How do you feel about Days Gone? It looks great. Looking to see more of it. Can't tell you other than that, but the presentation that they show looks phenomenal. Thought you was gonna go to PC. If Sony fully supports PC, then yes. If Sony fully supports PC. If they only support PC with streaming, I am not playing games over streaming. I'm not doing that. What does Sony still have to do to keep the upper hand with the Scorpio coming? Just release games. That's all. Listen, even Phil Spencer on the episode of Unlocked, he even said that Scorpio's not going to be the number one selling Xbox product. It's going to be the Xbox One S. Scorpio is a premium product for the premium user. So it's going to be like $500. And $500 consoles don't take over the industry. So Sony just needs to keep pushing games. That's it. Just keep pushing games and ensure they maintain the marketing rights for third parties so that way the exclusive content. And that's it, And I think everybody will be happy. Both my PS Plus and okay, let's see. I'll get another subscription. Let's see. Would you buy an Xbox if it was announced? Would you buy an Xbox if Knights of the Old Republic 3 was announced? If it gets announced, it's going to be a multi-plat because that's a BioWare game. So, I know on Knights of the Old Republic, and those games were phenomenal. They weren't on PlayStation 2, but that's because BioWare was only supporting Xbox at the time. But now that they fall under EA, if they ever release that game, it's going to be a multi-plat, kind of like Mass Effect. What will Nintendo have to do in order for third-party developers to keep supporting it in the future? Oh, man, that's going to be a hard one because Nintendo screwed the pooch on that one because of power. A lot of the tools and game development that developers use to make games, the Switch can't handle it. So Switch is not going to be able to run PS4, Xbox One games. You know what I mean? And sure, they could dumb it down exponentially, but Nintendo games are not going to pay $60 for an inferior port. What Nintendo needs to do in terms of third party, they need to go after the mobile market third party because there is a lot of third party developers in the mobile market that know how to work with the ARM architecture. They know how to work with mobile architecture. And I think if Nintendo works with these developers and these developers create bigger budget games, bigger budget than phone games, you can see some amazing Switch games and creative ideas and new experiences on the Switch. So, in my opinion, Nintendo needs to go after the mobile third-party developers and not so much the big third-party developers that consoles has. Another question. The Switch is underpowered, and will this make some third-party developers ignore them? Because in my opinion, some games probably won't be able to run. Yeah, that's exactly it. It's a mobile tablet. It's not going to work. So there's going to be a lot of games that just won't run. You're not going to see Mass Effect Andromeda or Red Dead Redemption on the Switch. So it's a default stance. Due to lack of power, it's just going to miss on some games. But this goes back to Nintendo needs to foster relationships with the mobile market. And these mobile developers, they're really good with mobile architecture. They just increase the budget to the level of Switch, and you'll see some amazing games. Product, are you saying that it's Phil Spencer? Ask yourself. This is the combined Asian market, Japan, China, South Korea. How many 360s were sold combined? All right, C-Trigger. It doesn't matter how many 360s were sold combined. Okay? You can physically play Japanese games. I could put an Xbox 360 in front of your face, and I could throw countless games at you, right? I could just grab them and just throw at you. You could physically have it. It's just something you can touch. It's something you can do. It's something you can experience. I could grab the OG Xbox and I could throw tons of Japanese games and you can physically play them. You understand what I'm saying? You could physically play them. And these were Japanese, And the 360 did worse than the Xbox in Japan. But it was still getting not only Japanese games, but it got Japanese exclusive games that wasn't on the PlayStation. Japanese exclusive games. Hell, look at one example, Virtual Fighter 5 versus the PS4, the PS3 version of Virtual Fighter 5. The 360 version had online. Japanese developers actually built the infrastructure to make the game online playable. They didn't even do that for the PlayStation 3. This is something you can physically, you're so hooked on what Phil Spencer says. Go with what you can do. Go out there, grab a 360, play the games. You can do it. Compare them to the PS3. You can physically do it. You can go out there and do it yourself. You don't have to listen to Phil Spencer. Those are just words. Phil Spencer is a corporate dude. Do what you can feel, what you can touch, what you can play. And then ask yourself, what was the difference between 360 and Xbox One? What's the underlying cause? And it's people. It's not the console. It's people. It's the effort people put in for their own product. You know, Peter Moore and all the people in OG Xbox, they personally believe Japanese games were important to the brand. Phil Spencer didn't, at least not at that time when he took over. He just didn't care. He didn't foster relationships. You know, that is the reason why you didn't see Japanese games on the Xbox One. It isn't because they're an American console, because if that statement is true, think about it. If the statement of Japanese games don't support American consoles, then I cannot reasonably grab a 360 and play Japanese games, because the 360 is an American console. But yet I can play those games. So that statement is completely false. When you can prove, think about it scientifically. If you're a scientist and the theory is Japanese don't develop games on American consoles, then you have to prove that theory. It's either going to get proven or disproven. Therefore, grab an American console. Can I play Japanese games on it? Yes, I can. Therefore, the theory has been disproven. You have to look at it from a scientific side. Don't hold Phil Spencer. He's not God. He's not Jesus either. Don't hold his word as the end all be all, because he changes his words all the time. You know what I'm saying? Because they still have to, I hate to say it, damage control their product, because they're not going to admit, Phil Spencer's not going to go out, hey, C-Trigger, yeah, you're right. You know, I done a piss poor job of trying to get Japanese developed games, and that's just how it is. I'm sorry. You know, my product is just not that good. He's not going to do that. He's not going to say that. You know, don't hold his word as the end all be all. Just see for yourself. See how the games were available. That's the point. You know, and again, he left recently to Japan. If he felt that these games were not going to be on Xbox One, he would not waste his time going to Japan. But he obviously went there. He obviously went there to advocate for his console. And that's why, all I'm saying is that's what he should have done 3 years ago. In 2014, he should have advocated for his console to go. Now, if Phil Spencer would have said, well, I went to Japan 3 years ago to advocate and they told me no, then I would say, oh, shit. But he didn't do that. And he didn't say that. What else? You bought a Switch? Hell no, I didn't buy no Switch. I'm not into mobile devices. And no, I didn't buy a Vita or that stuff. I don't buy mobile devices. Do I see myself joining the podcast? I don't know. Podcasting is a lot of work. And I'm already on 3. I'm on my podcast. I'm on the multiplayer podcast. And I'm on Titanfall Princess. And the thing about the BGST, it's on Sundays. So a lot of times I'm off on Sundays and I like to spend it with my family. So that's a lot of work. If Zaire wants me on the BGST podcast, because he wants a Sony thing and he wants it more sensible, then I will tell him I'll do it, but I won't be on the multiplayer podcast no more. I have to drop something. You know what I'm saying? Something has to give. And that's it. Something I will have to do one or the other. I wouldn't be able to do all of it. One is it takes up a lot of time. It takes up a lot of gaming time. You know what I'm saying? So I got a limit to how much I can do. I hear you talking about Japanese games a lot. So you rather have nothing but Japanese? Okay, so next question. I hear you talking about Japanese games a lot. So you rather have nothing but Japanese games? No, that's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is, in fact, that's the beauty about it. A console with Japanese games, still you can still have Western games. It's not something, it's not an either or fight. It's both. You want both because, you know, think about it. If my console, think about this. You guys are not experiencing Neo. It's a great game. You know, it would be cool that you guys were able to play. I know we all talk shit about, you know, exclusive whatever, but you guys, Neo is a great game. You know what I'm saying? Neo Automa is a game you guys should enjoy also. You know, it's not about East versus West. It's just console gamers owning a console and getting the most experiences, and every region provides different experiences. The Western gamers provide, hell, even there's European Western gamers, Western developers that provide a certain level of experience. North American Western developers provide a certain level of experience, and Japanese developers provide a level of experience. And gamers should be able to enjoy that. Phil Spencer should have made sure that those experiences were also on Xbox. He should have went and advocated for that. And that's why he should have done, and that's why he's done it recently. So it's happening. So eventually you're going to see more Japanese games goes on a console. And that's perfectly fine. This is who's next. But I really don't care about Japanese games. They really haven't had a game. That's the thing. Even if you don't care, it doesn't take away from the games you do like. So let's say if a Japanese developer made a new action hack and slash games on the Xbox, it's not going to take away a game from a Western developer that you do like. One is not going to replace the other. It's both. You get both, and then you get to decide what you want to play. You may not be interested in Japanese games, but that doesn't mean the next Xbox gamer isn't. It's just both. You know what I'm saying? You just get both. You ignore it. If you don't want it, you don't want it. But one is not going to replace the other. It's not like I'm saying Microsoft's first-party developers should become Japanese developers. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying advocate, get the developers to support, and there's going to be Xbox gamers that's going to enjoy those games. That's what I'm saying. What's the underlying cause? I'm a black man living in America, and I know what it looks like. I call a spade a spade. I'm not blaming Phil. I blame the Asian market. Well, I'm blaming Phil because other white dudes didn't have an issue getting Japanese games. So why is it a problem now? It's because Phil didn't advocate. If you don't go over and talk, look at it this way. If the head developers went to Japan and talked to the Japanese developers, and the result is Xbox OG Xbox got Japanese games, right? And then you go with 360. Peter Moore specifically went to Japan, talked to them. The console ended up getting 360, Japanese games on 360. And now you fast forward to Xbox One, Phil doesn't go to Japan. And therefore, no Japanese games or very little Japanese games go to Xbox One. What do you think is the problem? The problem's Phil. He didn't go over there. He needed to take his happy ass on a plane, fly to Japan, sit down, and start talking business and get these developers on board. He didn't do that. Peter Moore did. We see the results. The developer, the original leadership, hell, even Bill Gates himself went to Japan to talk with developers about his Xbox. And you see the results. I mean, the proof is in the pudding. You go over there, you talk to these Japanese developers, they're going to support your platform. That's really all Phil needed to do, but he didn't do that. Maybe he was too busy. Maybe he didn't think about it. But it's on him. He's the head of the Xbox now. The onus is on him. I'm not sure about that. Because let's say if Phil did say he did that and went over there, then why would he go back and do it again? Think about it. About 2 weeks ago, Phil took a trip in Japan, and on the Unlocked podcast, they asked him, that he went to Japan, and he said, "Yeah, I went over there to talk to them about, he went to talk with third-party developers and tell them their future and stuff like that, and to get support." And this is on Unlocked podcast. So if you're telling me Phil did that 2 years ago, and he was told no, you're going to tell me he's going to go back again just to hear no again? Think about that, C-Trigger. Phil didn't go back over there. All right? He didn't go back. He went there now, but he didn't do that 2 years ago. Do I think any type of game came out this year worth $60? Yeah, there's a few. Horizon Zero Dawn. Dragon Age, some games are. Some game, I guess so. I don't know. I guess I'm so used to $60. I never looked at it that way. And then also, I'm an Amazon Prime member, so I really don't pay $60. I pay $47 on all these new games. And last gen games were $60 anyway. So these games are bigger, better developed. Whether they're more fun or not is subjective, I would say. So I don't know. Good question. I know some games aren't worth $60. I could tell you that. I'll say that. There are games that shouldn't have no, like No Man's Sky. That game had no business being $60. Are you going to get Persona 5? Me, no. I was never into the Persona games. I first played the Persona games on PlayStation 1. I was just not into it. That's one franchise I was never able to get into. And I played a couple, you know. Um, I played that, and what was the other one? Nocturna. There's another kind of like it, but I forgot the name. But those games I wasn't really interested in, so I never got into those. And that goes as back as the PlayStation 1. What else? I don't know. This is Halo Storm. Do you think the Platinum developers are assholes because it seems they purposely didn't put Near Autumn on Xbox because of Scalebound? I'll be honest. I don't know what happened with that relationship. Um, See Trigger, yeah, thank you to that. I appreciate it. You know what I'm saying? It's good conversation. Overall, I hope Phil Spencer's recent trip results in Xbox getting more Japanese games. The fan base deserves it. You know, I know some people aren't interested, but deserves it. Now back to Halo Storm. Do I think they're assholes? I just don't know what happened between Microsoft and Platinum Games. It's just crazy how things ended up. Um, and yeah, maybe Platinum Games got a little bit spiteful because their project got canceled, and you know, and now they're like, "Fuck you, Microsoft." I don't know. It's I don't know the relationship. It's just overall the Xbox game is lost out on a potential great RPG, which is Scalebound, which I think is the saddest out of all. That's what's crazy. How does that RPG have become anecdote to American gamers? When did American gamers, of which I'm one, become so ADHD addled that they can't follow story-based games or aren't FPS hybrids? I don't know. There's a lot of successful Western games. RPGs. You know, you got the Fallout. Obviously, yeah, that's kind of like a FPS. But you got Elder Scrolls Online, The Witcher, Dragon Age. So I think they all did good. Technomancer. Well, I ain't gonna say Technomancer, but I think it's all still that. I just don't know. Here's the thing: the conversation and the it's not even the RPG. A lot of Xbox gamers are not bashing RPG because it's RPG, JRPGs. They're bashing it because it's not on their platform. That's really, let's just be honest. It's the minority Peter Pans that are making this false perception. You know, simply because they don't want to give props to PlayStation 4 for pushing, Japanese developed games. So they rather bash, these level of games just so that way they don't give PlayStation 4 credit. That's really what it's all about. But I guarantee if a lot of these Japanese games were on Xbox, they wouldn't be talking shit about it. Not to the level that they are. So it's just really, you don't pay attention to the fanboys. Am I looking forward to Destiny 2? Oh, hell yeah. Okay. Got to give you props that you at least read and chat answers questions. Yeah, I try to, you know what I'm saying? I try to because I try to answer and chat and stuff and especially if I'm by myself. If I'm in a podcast, it's kind of hard because I got other members, But when I'm by myself, I try to read you guys because you guys take the time to listen to me. So I like to bring it back. Let me see if I could catch up on some of what y'all saying. Are you looking forward to Destiny 2? Yes, I am. Definitely. That's probably one of the few online games I actually played consistently this year. Destiny and Elder Scrolls Online were two huge ones. Not into RPG. Yeah, who knows? Every generation, there's always an RPG that gets people into the genre. Every generation. I remember people, their first RPG was Final Fantasy VII, and from then on, they were hooked. There's always, some people didn't like RPGs until they played Mass Effect. It's just, or Knights of the Old Republic. It's just how it is. There's always an RPG that could get people hooked. Now here it is. The bad thing is Spencer should have been doing this before the Xbox One was released. He should have had known the system couldn't survive on Dubros alone. Well, I can't blame Spencer on that because he wasn't in charge before Xbox One. Don Matrick was. So the initial launch of Xbox One in the following year was all under Don Matrick's belt. Spencer, though, when he took over, he should have made that one of his priorities. What do I think about 3% developers developing a Switch? Oh, wow. I didn't read about that. Damn, only 3%? I don't know. That's kind of scary, man. The Switch needs support, And I hope Nintendo is successful, because it's bringing something different, and I have no issues with that. I most likely won't get it. Maybe not. I don't know. If I do get it, I obviously will treat it like a console. It will be plugged in, docked, and it will stay there. I have no reasons to remove it. But I hope Nintendo does good. I really do. You know, they so that way they could bring. They got a lot of IPs that are a different experience. You know, Punch Out, Metroid, Donkey Kong, Kirby. You know, obviously the Mario, Zelda. You know, do you think Xbox should rethink about how they represent the games they have? I just think they need to market more. They just need to market more. You know, if you don't know the game's available, how the hell are people going to buy it? Market the shit. That's what they gotta do. They gotta do more marketing besides just relying on tweets and stuff. You know, if you want your games to be bought, just go out there and hype them up. All right. Anyway, so it's already almost 8 o'clock. Um, damn. How long was this podcast? The podcast been running for a little bit. Oh, this little conversation. Wow, this conversation ran for a little bit. But anyway, it's great talking to you guys. It's Sunday, so you know, I gotta get ready for work tomorrow. I'm gonna play some gaming. I'm gonna play a little Horizon Zero Dawn. But hey, I want to appreciate you guys stopping by. I hope this video is informative and stuff. And there you go. That's it. All right. Again, I'll go back doing my 60 frames don't like podcast Wednesday. Um, and not this Wednesday, but in April after, because I don't have the time right now to dedicate to set that up. And I apologize for that. But again, I will do some things like this and videos and, you know, and updates and stuff like that. All right. But anyway, you know that sound. All right. Hey, you take care. Enjoy the rest of your Sunday. And hopefully you have a great week. All right. Take care, guys.